Welcome to An Uncommon Conversation, brought to you by the Kaufman Foundation. This episode is the third in a series of frank personal conversations between women in the entrepreneurship space who discuss equity and economic engagement through the lens of their personal and professional experiences. In this episode, we are joined by first-time mother and first-time entrepreneur, Ella Livingston. Livingston is the founder of Coco Asante, a premium chocolate company that handcrafts truffles using cocoa sourced from her home country of Ghana, and serial entrepreneur and mother of three, Shelly Bell. Shelly Bell is the founder of Black Girl Ventures, an organization that provides women with access to community, capital, and capacity building that leads to economic advancement through entrepreneurship. In this candid conversation, they share how the realities of caregiving and the cost of living have impacted their economic choices as women.
So I'm Ella Livingston. I became a mother, last year in the middle of the pandemic.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been the most beautiful experience. It's been the best experience. But at the same time, it has been hands down the hardest thing I've ever had to do is just managing motherhood and life in general, that comes with being a working mom. I'm a high school math teacher. I am an entrepreneur, so I have a chocolate company, and then a wife and housekeeper, all of that good stuff. But I started my company in 2018. What we basically do is we create beautiful chocolate products by hand, and we use a company that sources the cocoa from my home country, Ghana. So, but yeah, that's where I am. And that's who I am.
So I am Shelly Bell. I'm the founder and CEO of Black Girl Ventures. I have lived a lot of lives. I've done a lot of things. I was a computer science teacher in high school, a high school computer science teacher for about 4 years. I worked for the Patent and Trademark Office. I worked in workforce development, but I landed on doing Black Girl Ventures, creating Black Girl Ventures after a stint of just like trying different business things and models because I needed to make capital. I was engaged and my fiance at the time did not want me to start a business. And I was pregnant with my third child. After I had her, he was like, nah, I don't think you should start a business because I don't think it's going to be stable enough for the family that we're trying to grow. And so I didn't at first. I went and I got another job. I felt like it would be fun. My partner didn't. I'm like, I'm going to be a wife. I've never done that before. So maybe this is what I should do. So at this point, I have 3 children total. So I had my first child when I was 17. I had my second child when I was 21. And after that, I was like, lock it up.
Yeah.
So we actually planned my 6-year-old. What I think is interesting, though, about the idea of, like motherhood and wages and that kind of thing is that when I had my first child at 17 and my mom was like, you're not going to be a statistic. So I grew up very middle class, 2 parents, the typical whatever American dream is supposed to look like, 2 parents, 1.5 kids, house, dog, fence, that kind of thing. What my children know about life, because I'm a single parent, is not necessarily that from an emotional balance, I think, standpoint, but from a financial balance standpoint, I was working myself crazy to try to provide what I had because that was my bar for what I could see. So my junior year in college, and I rarely ever tell this story, my junior year in college, I went to get Section 8 because I could not afford to take care of these 2 children by myself, right? And their fathers, different fathers, were active, but not fully caretakers. Like that's who I hoped they'd be, but they didn't turn out to be that. So I'm a single mom with these 2 children at that time, about to graduate from college. I graduate from college, and I have Section 8, food stamps, as much government assistance as I could possibly get. But like I learned, like, these things are keeping people afloat on their motherhood journey, and the real enemy is the cost of living. Right?
Say that.
The real enemy is the cost of living. Like I had a degree. I worked good jobs. I had been a teacher. Like I said, I worked for the federal government, all of that. But I had 2 children and I'm a single parent. I could not afford to live in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area with 2 children as a single parent without some government assistance. But having government assistance is like, oh, what?
Yeah, you're shamed for it.
And it's one of those things where like, this is not a Black person story. This is not a like girl over there story. This is not a, oh, you had kids when you was in high school story. This is an American story. The idea that American citizens cannot survive and thrive, right, without government assistance at any level of being a mother, that should be absurd, right? Yes. It should not be shameful that you have a kid and you want to raise your kid by yourself, no matter what your circumstances were. I don't care what happened to the father. The father could have passed away. That's not the point. Because even if there was the quote unquote more acceptable thing that happened to them, to their fathers, I still would not have been able to live without government assistance in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, right? So honestly, entrepreneurship for me was like, one, I'm not going to work for someone who can look at what I've been doing for the last 5 years and be like, oh, I see 65,000. Wait, what? Time out. Like, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. On top of the fact that I was just never a good employee. Like, I always want to change something. I always want to make things better.
Yes. But that's what they should be wanting, right?
No. Listen, you're a teacher, you know that.
Look, I know. Look, this year has been tough to say the least. Like, so we were supposed to get, like when you were talking about wages and money and the cost of living, that hit home because right now, so we live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's not like a big city or anything like that. It's a great city to live in. Like there's articles about, how Chattanooga, gig city, et cetera, et cetera. But the cost of living is rising so fast. And it's to the point where, so me and my husband went to purchase a house this past year. And it was difficult. It was difficult for us to find a house in a good area that we could afford. And even now, especially now with Bella, like when I think of, just adding up everything, daycare costs, like it's to the point where we actually couldn't afford daycare for Bella. The only reason why, my daughter is even in daycare is because teachers were considered emergency workers. And so we got a stipend to cover childcare. And even though we're limited to where we can go, at least it's something. Because at first we were only able to send her 2 days out of the week. And that was at our max. That is at our max. And we both have jobs, but we weren't able to afford to send Bella to daycare. So I was at the point where it's like, okay, like I'm doing this entrepreneurship thing, but my job is my steady paycheck right now. But if I'm gonna, I'm a virtual teacher, so at least I had that. So if I, when Bella didn't go to daycare, she was with me. But next year I'm going to be in person. There's no way I can be an in-person teacher and send Bella to daycare because that's my entire paycheck. Daycare is our mortgage. Daycare is my paycheck. And so it was like, there's no point in me returning to work because I simply can't even afford to do that.
It's interesting because I think like this idea of like entrepreneur mothers in general, falling into this place of like, I am the sacrificial goat when the childcare doesn't work out.
Yes,
like,
that's it.
That is like, it's like childcare ain't working out. I'm the one that's going to take it on.
That's it.
And I don't know if that's a physical from the body thing or like men just are not conditioned societally to think about it that way. There's like why it keeps falling on a mom that she's a sacrificial goat for the thing. And when the child needs a thing or is needing a thing, it's so true and it's so real that is the way that it typically goes.
Yeah.
I mean, as we also, what is this like I can handle it thing? Like
look, I don't know what it is. I have it and I need to. There's been times where like something will happen and it's like Rudy will have to get Bella ready and I'm like packing her food, even though like I'm at work, I'm taking time to pack her food, pick her outfit out, check, did you get this? Did you get that? And it's like, one day I saw it, I was like, why am I doing all this? why, even if he puts her in a mismatched outfit, like one day he sent her to my mom's house and she was in her pajamas. Like she didn't have new clothes on. And I was just like, that would usually bother me, but I was just like, it is what it is, because I'm taking on too much and I shouldn't. Like when you were saying that, with daycare issues, like if something happens, we take that on. When Bella is not able to go to daycare, I'm working online. I'm working virtually. My husband's working virtually. Not once, and not to say anything against him because he's been doing great.
Yeah.
But not once is Bella downstairs with Rudy at work. She's always with me. My students know Bella. They know what she looks like. They know that she loves pulling my headphones out. They know that she will, shut down class on accident. But it's like that burden falls on me. And I just, that's
yeah.
all.
I mean, it's the mothers spend 1.7 for more hours caring for and helping children in the household than fathers. Like I am like, oh my goodness. Looking at these stats, I don't even know that I've been able to put numbers to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at them going like, oof, is that real? Like that is so crazy. I think like after I had my now 6-year-old Skylar,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think her dad even understood what my body was doing.
Yes.
I didn't understand what my body was doing. Right. So I was feeling like he's around here acting like everything is fine. He's dancing and prancing and going to the freaking gym.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over here trying to heal from one of the worst C-sections I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like, and the idea that like, well, let's get back. Let's get your body back. Let's get it back.
Yeah. And there is no snapback. A year later, I still haven't. Snapback where?
It's been 4 years and I had a child over 30. When you have a child over 30, it's a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then I think social media, can we talk about social media?
Yes,
how these messages, oh, look at the snapback. Listen, girl, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I'm at the look. I was just like, I gotta choose between exercising and taking care of my child, getting work done, eating. Like, there's no. We don't. It's almost like some of us can't afford to even have a snapback because we just have so much on our plate.
Emotional or financial capacity, in the sense that like having a whole nurse, having a whole chef, having a whole like whatever levels of elite freaking healthcare that provide this like ultimate level of whatever you get to have. Like there is a different world that something that people pretend isn't happening, that is happening on the elite and the privileged, as like what you can have access to and who and how many people and what adds to your capacity. And I think even like the way the society continues to perpetuate this idea of like whose role it is to do what, there's that. And even though I think that has kind of lessened a little bit, in 40 states plus the District of Columbia, the cost of childcare for 2 children exceeds mortgage costs among homeowners. You know what? Ooh, where the finances fail, mothers completely pick up with energy and emotions.
Yes.
That's exactly. That's it.
We become what we need, regardless of whether we have the credentials, the degrees, the time. We become what we need because we have no choice. I sat back one day and I was just like, should it really be this hard? Should it really be this hard to have graduated college, to have a master's degree? And should I be struggling this hard to just survive? And the answer is no. And then I started to think, well, are there places where there are, I guess, where there's systems in place? Are there countries where there's systems in place where people don't have to struggle like this? And the answer is yes. And my question is like, why not us? Why not us? Like when I was going through pregnancy, I remember they told me first and foremost that my maternity leave was 8 weeks. I was like, okay, great, I can do that. 8 weeks unpaid. Then I was like, wait a minute, what? So how am I supposed to survive 8 weeks unpaid? But like, y'all barely pay me enough, right? And then it was like, well, you just use your sick days. The only reason why I had enough sick days is because I've been working there for years. What if it was my first year? And
Mm.
then going through the pregnancy, I had a high risk pregnancy and it was extremely difficult. I was sick every day up until I gave birth. And I couldn't even use my sick days because I had to save up my sick days for my
Mm.
maternity leave. My husband, he got paternity leave paid. So his company did great with making sure like, things were good on our end. And then when the pandemic hit, he got to work from home. I had to fight to work from home in the pandemic as a teacher.
Mm.
Students got options, parents got the choice to keep your child at home. Teachers didn't have the option to keep. I had
Mm.
to come with a doctor's note. And then even then, I had to fight with my doctor to get the doctor's note because he was
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
I tell you, I was in there. I'm like, just had recovered from the C-section. I'm going through postpartum. And I'm like, and it was like terrible postpartum where they put me on medication. I was seeing a therapist because it was so bad. And I'm just like, okay, I need to go back to work, but I don't want to go back. We're in the middle of the pandemic. I have a newborn baby. I could not take the risk. And when I went to my doctor, he was like, no, well, actually, I don't, I can't give you a doctor's note because we're encouraging pregnant women and, women who've just had babies to go back to work. And I was just like, are you serious? So I had to go to another doctor to be able to get a
Oh
doctor's
my
note. So
God.
it's like from the workplace, from healthcare, it was just like everything was fighting against me to just be able to safely do my job and safely be a mother. And so I haven't had the best experience. And I feel like we're like harping and like, just, this is bad about it. This is terrible about this. But I think people need to know, unless we bring awareness to these things, people just think that it's all fine and dandy, and it's not.
It's not.
As a teacher with so many females in that profession, there should be no reason why we don't have paid maternity leave. There should be no reason why it's so limited. I mean, just, it's lacking in so many ways. And unless we talk about it, people are just going to think that we're okay with it, and we're
That's
not.
right. We're
There's
not.
too many women who've had to leave because they had to choose, am I going to raise my kids, or am I going to send my own entire paycheck to daycare? And that's where I'm at now. I had to leave the profession because I couldn't, as much as I love my kids, as much as I love what I do, as fun. I mean, I'm the type of teacher, we do music videos in class. I mean, we're having a great time while working this math. As much as I love that, I can't afford to do it anymore.
Oh my God. Fewer than 1 in 5 civilian employees have access to paid family leave. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It's just like, but what, like this, why? It's crazy that like people that have been birthed, like from whole women's bodies, have
Mm-hmm.
no respect for the birthing process, for the woman they came out of. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody has any and it's like, cannot afford, really takes another perspective when you think about the infant mortality rates from one place to another. So if you think about, so just in DC alone, the infant mortality rate in like Southeast DC
Mm-hmm.
is like double or triple like the infant
Wow.
mortality rate just on the other side of the freaking city. And it's like, are you kidding me? So it really like it puts
Yeah.
afford in a different place, like
Mm-hmm.
afford to lose yourself, your body, your children, healthcare. Like it brings a lot more into perspective when you think about it that way. I mean, my like shining light at the end of the tunnel was entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
because after I landed on a business model, because that was the key,
Yeah.
on a business model that will bring me capital. I had a t-shirt line, a clothing line, and a print shop. I was printing for brands and corporations. And
Mm-hmm.
there was like capital that would bring in largest amounts of capital at once. So anyway, I worked myself off of Section 8 with entrepreneurship. If I was still teaching K through 12 education, I would not have been able to put now 2 kids through college. One
Wow.
kid graduated on Mother's Day.
Wow.
And my son is now George Mason. So my oldest son graduated from North Carolina A&T. My 19-year-old is now at George Mason. And I am paying for that out of pocket as an entrepreneur with the company that I built and the revenue
Wow.
that I made
Wow.
by myself.
Wow.
I could never afford to do that working a regular job. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Your capacity is limited and everything's determined by someone else.
And that's what I hope. That's what I hope to do with Coco Asante. Having just resigned, I'll finish out the school year, of course, but I'm taking
Oh,
that like
you
leap of
just resigned. Well,
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I go between like, okay, I can do this to what did I do? Like, are we even gonna make it? So I'm like literally in this period of like, I went out on faith, and I hope that I can look back and say the same thing that you have said, because I see entrepreneurship not just it's a way out, it's a way to provide for the family, it's a way to build something that can continue on like for generations. I'm tying in what my family does, the past of our family, and I want to build to be something that can continue into the future. So that's the hope. Whether I can, I know I can do it because I have the will and I have the capability and I have the grit. I just hope that the necessary doors that are supposed to open up, especially in terms of just capital. That's just capital.
No, I love it. And listen, you will. And I would say, like, if there's any advice that I could give you, concentrate on your business model. Like, you know, to grow your business, concentrate on those business models. And I mean, throughout the course of your business, you'll find yourself trying to balance like growing your business and the role of being a mother. The great thing about entrepreneurship that I learned is that I can control all of that. Yes. I can control my time. I can control. So, but ways that I've learned to balance that is to just work like you're working a regular work day. Like try to incorporate it as much as you can. So like scheduling like, okay, 8 to 5, I'm off at 5. Literally I'm off and just closing my computer and walking away. Because when I became an entrepreneur, I thought I was such a good time manager. No. My job was totally managing my time. It wasn't me. So I folded right into that. I mean, you'll be so buried in it.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be key this summer, because like I'll have to figure out how to schedule working, but then also being with Bella. Since we won't have daycare, it'll primarily be on me. So what hours can I set aside to work? Where can I find somebody to help? I think that's one thing that I am. So coming from Ghana, in our culture, first and foremost, we don't live just with a nuclear family. You have generations in one household. So childcare is a lot easier because your mom is there, your grandma is there. There's family that can help. Whereas here, it's just a lot more difficult. It's all just the woman. And so, yeah, I'll just have to figure out where can I get help, where can I get support, and really use those supports. Because yeah, childcare is definitely, I think, right now my biggest barrier, because what I need is time to grow the company, and I don't have the time if I'm being a mother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have week-to-week visitation, so that also helps me. So
okay,
I don't have her, I plan everything I possibly can to the max.
Yes,
good. When I do have her, I'm still working, but I'm trying to balance. I can kind of cut off my work at a certain point. And then investing in having the people around you. And some of that meant like putting my kids in activities where like I met other moms. Maybe sometimes I keep their kid. I mean, Bella's mom, like as she gets bigger,
it'll be easier to do that.
Yeah, it'd be easy to do that. Having a mom friends, well, she has friends, so sometimes they come over and you kind of keep them. Sometimes she come over, you can keep, we have in the building that I live in, we have a mom group that we just kind of formed. And so it was just like, hey girl, I need to run to the store right quick, or hey, could you unlock this? Can you, hey, could you check on that? Like that community is key. That community. Yeah.
So it's like, it's building that community, building that village, not just in the family, but with those around you. Okay.
That's right. And sometimes you got to intentionally build it, because they don't always just come.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, like, what do you think could be some solutions? I would really love to wrap up with what can moms do? If there's a mom out there who's like, I know all the things that are not working and I just want to freaking find something. I need some light, some inspiration. What can work? What would you say to that mom?
Man, what can work? I feel like what we've been talking about overall are like like as we've touched on the problems, therein were the solutions. We need daycare that's accessible to all. We need daycare that's affordable. We need our wages to be the same. We need better health care. We need better maternity care. We need better support for entrepreneurs. We need better support for Black female entrepreneurs. I feel like we heard a lot of last year, especially with George Floyd, heard a lot of companies promising to spend this amount of money with Black companies to increase diversity, to close the wage gap. And I was recently reading an article, and they were saying out of that, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but it was like 50 billion was pledged and only 5 million has been given so far. And it's been a year. And so it's like, so we definitely need just more funding and more people to follow through with what they pledge. And I think what can kind of affect all of this overall is we really need a government that cares about us as people. Because if you don't care about the people, you're not going to care about their children. You're not going to care about their future. You're not going to care about their wages, how they're doing. You're not going to care about their quality of life. And sometimes we look at people in poverty or working people or us, and from the top down, it's like, y'all don't deserve to relax. Y'all don't deserve to enjoy life. Y'all just need to work yourselves and pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. But I think that people just need to care at the end of the day. And if we had that, the issues that we have in education, the issues that we have in the workforce, the issues that we have that we've discussed this whole time, I think that real systemic change could be helped. Because you can put as much policy as they want, but unless you really truly care, it won't go far and it won't last long.
That's right. No, I think figure out your own formula, because the only way to cut through the noise from what I've learned is to figure out your own formula that works for you. Like figuring out, a lot of times when we start over or we leave things, or it feels like we're starting over. And I always tell people, like, you're not starting over, you're starting from here. And from here is with everything you know.
That's right.
Now here's it. What motherhood will give you is the freaking hustle spirit. You know how to carry more than one thing up some steps.
Yeah.
Okay. You know how to you could carry like 5 bags of grocery, a kid on your shoulder, their blanket, their car seat. Like you got all that all in your hands at one time. And and you trudging up the steps. Like I think that we definitely as mothers should be celebrated for how we take everything on our backs, finances, emotional capacity, and even partners, right? And then we roll with it and we just we take a stand. And it's like looking at your playbook for success and saying, what the things that have made me successful. Yes, I got a degree. Yes, I got the other job, the job experience, the work experience, the way to articulate. But what about me has caused this success? Because there's a lot of people out there that got degrees. There's a lot of people out there that got, all these other things, same things you have, and their lives look different. Not good or bad, just different. And so there's something about each one of us that has created our playbook for where we can go. And that can always be shifted. Pages can be ripped out. The last play can be X'd out. You can be like, we're not using that play no more. But I think when I got engaged in constant self-discovery and business discovery, and I quieted all the noise, all the stats and the news and the social media. And I'm not saying I went off of any platforms. I was still there. But I had to have my moments of quieting, sitting down, looking at the numbers, looking at my skill set and saying, what can I do? And I think that is what a mom has. That's what motherhood is. It's like you're constantly predicting as a mom. You're constantly predicting. Like, when he squealed like that, it just mean he got air in his stomach, child. That's what I learned. You know, like, when she shifted her head like that, she getting a little sleepy. Let's go ahead and get the blanket out. Like, we have that intuition that kind of like develops through that motherhood gene of like pulling it out and being like, I got this. Because all I gotta do is think about it. All I gotta do is watch how this moves, right? And I think as we apply that to markets, as we apply that to marketing, as we apply that to business models, that's why mothers thrive.
Wow.
I think
you put that, you articulate that very, very, very well. We take that skill set that we've been surviving on and doing well on, and we apply that to the workforce. I like that.
100%.
For more stories on growing an inclusive economy, please visit us at emkf.org/currents. The Uncommon Conversation series brings two people together to discuss personal perspectives and fresh opinions on topics related to the Kauffman Foundation's work. The perspectives of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of the Kauffman Foundation, but are presented here to celebrate uncommon voices and civil discourse to move conversations forward.